Good Sunday, March 8, 2020. I'm Sabah Fakuri. In today's Heart and Home podcast, I'll be talking about IWD, International Women's Day. At the end of the podcast, I'll be sharing the verified podcast that I had promised to tell you about yesterday in today's podcast. The campaign theme for International Women's Day 2020 is #Each for Equal. This year's campaign calls for equal rights for all genders. First, I would like to acknowledge all the great men in the world who are supportive of women. Although International Women's Day is a global day to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, we still have a long way to go. Many women today live in poverty, are married off at a young age, are denied an education, or trapped in a loveless marriage. I hope if you are listening to this podcast that you know your circumstance does not define you. In yesterday's podcast, I talked about Jennifer Lopez and Louise Hay. We have two examples of achieving women. One, J-Lo told Oprah in her Vision 2020 interview that her fiancé Alex Rodriguez is fully supportive of her career. He will be her fourth marriage. The other woman, Louise Hay, the founder of Hay House Publications, helped millions heal themselves from cancer, loved their body, and empowered women despite being physically abused by her stepfather and raped by a neighbor when she was about 5 years old. She defied the odds. But it takes work, something that many women need to do if they want an extraordinary life. It is possible. In J-Lo's words, the sky is not the limit. Our next story is about a Barbie doll. You may have heard news this week that Mattel launched several Shiro dolls. You know, when I was growing up, I played with Barbie dolls. But today's young girls have many models to choose from, including 4 body types: the original, tall, petite, and curvy or full-figured. The maker Mattel has been criticized for producing the super thin female dolls, which some thought that it promoted unhealthy body images. You know, Barbie has received a number of makeovers since she debuted in 1959. Today's Barbie fashionista line is more inclusive with 7 skin tones, 22 eye colors, and 24 hair colors that include mohawks, afros, braids, curly and straight bobs, and some with blue and purple hair. In honor of International Women's Day, the toy maker launched a new doll modeled after the United Kingdom's fastest female sprinter, Dina Asher-Smith. Mattel, who's expanding its representation of female athletes, announced 6 new Barbies this week in celebration of the doll's 60th anniversary. Among the newest members of the Shiro Club are grownish actress Yara Shahidi, who launched the 18 by 18 movement to empower and engage young voters, activist and model Adoa Aboa, who runs an online community called Girls Talk, biracial tennis player Naomi Osaka, the reigning U.S. and Australian Open champion, and Australian journalist Ida Butros, the founding editor of the women's magazine Clio. Mattel also revealed Barbies in the likeness of Brazilian surfer Maya Gabeira, German Olympic cyclist Christina Vogel, Canadian ice skater Tessa Virtue, artistic gymnast Deepa Karmakar, and Chinese photographer Chen Man. And 20 additional new dolls are planned. One doll that they don't have is one girl that you have seen a lot of this year, 17-year-old Greta Thunberg from Sweden. The Swedish teenager who skipped school inspired an international movement to fight climate change. She's inspired millions worldwide to skip school every Friday. You know, Greta takes criticism in stride. She changes her Twitter biography to include words by both US President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. You know that Putin called her, quote, a kind but poorly informed teenager. President Trump said after Greta's September 19 appearance at the United Nations, remember that one where she said, "You stole my dreams"? Trump said, quote, she must work on her anger management problem. But that hasn't deterred her fans, including young children who look up to her for standing up for what she believes in. This morning, Greta tweeted the following: "Today is hashtag International Women's Day, and we recognize that women are still far from equal to men in today's societies. We cannot have climate justice without gender equity. And remember, what we women want today and every day is equality, not congratulations or celebrations." If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain how I found out about this. It's free. It's on your app store. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right now from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Please, I urge you, don't waste another minute. I wasted 3 years. I attended all kinds of events to learn all the steps. I was so confused, and it was right here. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Do it now. And finally, the story I promised about a new podcast called Verified with Natasha Del Toro. Season 1 begins with 3 girls from Portugal who wanted to get away to Venice, Italy. Instead, they went to nearby Padua after receiving a response to their ad that read, "I'm a nice guy, Leonardo," with positive reviews. He said he was a policeman who had profile pictures in uniform. Later, we find out he's a carabiniera, an Italian policeman with stories from a few of his guests that were not positive. It became an international case involving foreign women and a serial rapist who's a policeman. A secret Facebook group with 14 women shared their stories of being drugged and some raped, and a group of Italian investigative reporters who normally covered organized crime and corruption in Italy that took a risk and took on the story. The women had to take matters into their own hands after reports to their local police in Portugal, the United Kingdom, Poland went nowhere. Despite having the evidence, officials didn't believe the girls, saying they weren't smart for accepting their host's invitation on the website Couchsurfing. It's a crazy story, but it's real. The story begins in episode 1, where the 3 young girls from Portugal meet their host, Leonardo, at an ice cream shop. When they meet, he was dressed as a cop. It made them feel safe. He had weird colored contact lenses that made his eyes look weird. All went well the first night. The next morning, their host showed the 3 girls around town, said he was a previous art student. They had fun, a great time. He spoke like a tour guide, but he was a fast driver. He played his music loud. After a day of sightseeing, he invited them back to an authentic Italian cooked dinner, cooked by his mama. They already had poured glasses of wine, but he wasn't nice toward his mom. The red flags still didn't go up. One girl didn't drink much. One of the other girls drank her glass. When she stood up, she felt a rush in her head. She could barely walk. But she didn't say anything. as she tried to take a few steps to wash the dinner dishes. For her, time stopped there. They don't have many memories except for the photos and videos on their phones. They could barely function, but they agreed to go dancing. More drinks flowed. Miriam was most coherent, but only remembered bits and pieces. Then some tried to take her friend to buy cigarettes. Despite her objections, their host got angry that she was gone. They went to go get her. Finally, they went home. The next morning, they tried to figure out what happened. Maria was spaced out when Leonardo came into the room and asked for a kiss. He insists, so she doesn't, but he quickly turns his cheek, so she kissed him on his lips. She went to sleep. Then she refuses to go to dinner because she couldn't move. She got a call from her mom. She forgot to call for her birthday. Her mom noticed she couldn't speak. She told her she was exhausted and hung up to go back to sleep. The girls searched the house for drugs, but they didn't find anything suspicious. They were sure they were drugged, but their host left for work before they could confront him. So they went to Venice, experiencing flashbacks. When they returned, he was still not there. They grabbed their bags and they left for the train. They tried to call, but he didn't answer. They exchanged voicemails, but she never spoke to him. They knew they had been violated. A bad feeling caused them to wonder if they had done the same thing to anyone else. And that is the story of Verified, a very interesting and a very big warning to women who are traveling. I don't want to scare you women out there, but I thought it was important to share on International Women's Day, and that's why I saved it for today. For Sabah Fakuri, for the Heart and Home podcast, I hope that you have a wonderful day today and every day.